Churchill came to office in May 1940. In June 1940, when France had also been knocked out by a brilliant military campaign that Hitler himself had masterminded, in June 1940, Hitler repeated his peace offer to the British. You remember the peace offer? I want nothing from Britain, nothing from the British Empire. I'm prepared even to give German forces to help defend the British Empire against the Italians, the Japanese, the Russians, or any other aggressors. This was the extraordinary, magnanimous, secret German offer to the British. Churchill received this offer by various channels during June 1940, and on various occasions was on the point of accepting it. We know this because in his cabinet were members of his war cabinet, Lord Halifax, Lord Beaverbrook, the great Canadian, the Minister of Aircraft Production, Neville Chamberlain, who was the former Prime Minister, 3 members of his 6-man cabinet. Half the cabinet wanted peace on those terms. And Chamberlain and Lord Halifax actually wrote descriptions of these cabinet meetings in their private diaries. And they described Churchill as being inclined to accept the German terms. The word terms is too harsh, because terms implies there was something disadvantageous to us. The German offer. He was inclined to accept the German offer, provided that the Empire's sovereignty, integrity and independence were safeguarded as they appeared to be. But you can imagine Churchill slapping himself on his wrist the same day, that night, when he's left the cabinet, saying, "What am I saying? Am I mad? If I accept these terms, I'm finished." Because on his personal record, ever since the beginning of his miserable life, there had only been one military fiasco after another. Gallipoli, 1921, between the wars, he had tried to declare war on Turkey. World War II would have begun then. It was a drunken cabinet meeting attended by F.E. Smith and Mr. Churchill. They both had a very heavy dinner, a lot of drinking, and you'll find the references to that in the private diaries of Mackenzie King again, a Privy Councillor to whom all this was related under the seal of secrecy as a Privy Councillor. 1940, we have Dunkirk, one of our most shameful episodes in British history, when Churchill personally gives orders to the British general in charge, Lord Gort, to withdraw, to retreat, to pull out of the line, without informing either of his brother generals to the right or the left, the Belgians or the French. Explicitly ordered not to tell his allies that he was pulling out, or as Churchill said, advancing to the coast. This was the way that Churchill put it in the order to Lord Gort. We were to advance to the coast without notifying either the French or the British High Command, the French or the Belgian High Command. It's exactly the same as what happened with the Empire. Churchill could have settled out of court in June and July 1940 on honourable terms which would have preserved Britain and the British Empire, which I've always considered to be one of the great civilizing, culturing influences in the history of the world. We would now have been the predominant force on the world. The British, not the Soviets, not the Americans. We would have been there. We could have been dictating the terms of peace and civilization today instead of those newcomers, the Americans, or those barbarians, the Russians. But Mr. Churchill frittered that all away because he knew that if he did so, if he accepted the peace terms in June and July 1940, he, Winston Churchill, would be out. He would be into oblivion, down the tubes of history. There would be no bronze monument to Mr. Churchill in Parliament Square in London, and he couldn't afford it.